Before we
much
jump on that. You're all right?
Oh, mate, we're live already. So
We're live. Wonderful.
yeah, we were gonna have a little private chit chat. I'm sorry, we've gone straight live because it's 6 o'clock. I'm just gonna check the quality of this broadcast now. You've freaked me. Let's have a look. Let's see which one of us has got the unstable connection. Let's have a look, Coach. Sorry,
it's not me.
It's both of us on my Facebook. It's both. It's all right. It's all right. Anyway, brother.
Yeah, it's right now, mate. Just so you know.
You what?
I'm gonna share this right now. While we're live. So I'll let you introduce or do your thing, and I'm gonna share it.
Dude, that's it. We jumped straight in. I was on your page the other day. You got some hell of a following, bro. Where did that come from? Last time I spoke to you, you weren't even using Facebook.
Just kept showing up, and there it was. People kept showing up eventually.
So we'll probably talk about that today. Yeah, keep showing up. Coach Shy. Am I the only person that calls you Coach Shy still, or does everybody else refer to you?
No. You're the only one, mate. Yeah, you are the only one. I found out to share it. I shared it so I can share it. Right, I'm listening. Let's go.
Cool, dude. Welcome. Thanks for doing this podcast, man. I'm excited. You delivered a badass training for my guys the other week, and I got a taste of Coach Shy's philosophy, and I liked it, bro.
Brilliant. Nah, it's probably changed a bit as well since me and you kicked about in person, I imagine.
100%. I think we both probably changed our outlook. I don't know whether it's a knowledge experience thing or whether it's just purely we're getting older. I'm not sure, dude. I think I don't know. This seems a familiar route. When I look who plays this game for a long time, everyone seems to follow the same path where people just wake up and realize it's not all about chasing the thing.
Yeah, about that. Mate, it changes, doesn't it? We spoke about this in your group. I think it changed. Not everyone makes that change. I don't think. I think not everyone, but I think a huge amount of people will start to see. If you're looking for the answer in something else, chasing the answer, you generally find it keeps eluding you, don't you? Until you wake up. But maybe a lot of people don't wake up. I don't know. But you obviously sound like you have. Like we spoke about, didn't we? The vision. I think people's visions change as you experience more things and you see more things and you see different things. Like it opens you up to different ideas and different standpoints and different philosophies, and you're like, man. I think if that's not happening, maybe things aren't changing.
Yeah. What do you think changes people's vision and perspective then? Do you think it's the art of study, or do you think it's the art of what happens to you? Do you think the greatest change comes from the experiences that we go through, or can you simply get your head into a book and can that change your vision? What in your experience with coaching people, when is that transition point, or is it not noticeable? Do you just wake up one day and go, shit, yeah, my opinions and views, they're fucking changed?
I think it's an experience thing, without a doubt, an experience thing. Because books are incredible, and you've probably read a load, and I've probably read a load. In fact, anyone who watches this, who's in your groups, who follows whatever, has probably read a few books. And it does open. I think they're brilliant because it opens up your mind, doesn't it? And you can see things a little bit differently. But I think until you experience what they're talking about in that book, it's very hard. I think it's like meditation, isn't it? You think you think you've got it, and then you realize down the line you haven't got it, and now you've got it now, and then eventually you come to realize you never get it, if that makes sense. it's like because you realize the aim isn't to get it at all. And I think it's like that with learning like that. You read a book and you're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it makes so much sense. But then when you experience it, you're like, oh, yeah, now I get it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, do you ever really get it from reading a book? I'm not sure. And I think they have a bit of I think when you read self-help books, I think you start to realize they're all saying the same thing. And most of them are at a very kind of surface level. So I think there's deeper work to do, isn't there? My mentor, Jeff, calls it entry-level self-help books. They all say the same thing. And they're cool. They're an introduction into, you want a better life, then, you grow your business, you get yourself fit, you get yourself healthy. But then when you do that, and you referred to this last week, there's only so many physical challenges you can do. There's only so many cars you can buy. There's only, a house you can get into. Once that happens, you're kind of left with that. Well, okay, hit my targets. Now what the fuck do I do with my goals and my ambitions? Like, what is life now about? Not the things that I have, but life itself.
Yeah, I think everyone's got to go through that process. And I tell you what, there'll be someone listening to this who just thinks, nah, it is about that. Because I would have thought that a while back, wouldn't you? You probably years and years ago, I'd have thought, no, it is just the consistent achievement of things. That's growth. And then actually you realize after a while of consistently achieving things, doesn't matter what you achieve, it never solves you. It's not the achievement of the thing. I love material things. God, who doesn't? I love them. I'm not going to say they're terrible. I love them. I love nice stuff, nice cars, nice food, nice places, whatever. But if you need that stuff to feel good, you never feel good. Do you know what I mean? If you need it.
But is it the pursuit that makes people feel good? So if I stop pursuing things, I'm like, well, I'm not challenged anymore. Like, why am I getting out of bed? Where is my growth going to come from? Where am I going to learn these lessons unless I pursue something? And I think this is the difficulty when you've been playing the game for a while. You go, okay, well, I know what it's not. I know it's not the car. I know it's not the house. So what do I pursue? Is this a character building thing that I'm pursuing, or do I go after a challenge in which the hope that it teaches me valuable lessons in life?
Yeah, well, I suppose that's the question back for anyone is, do we need to learn the lessons? I mean, are we doing things to learn lessons? Or are we doing things for how they feel? Why are we doing things? It's going to vary for everyone, isn't it? I suppose it's the kind of goal. It's what are you pursuing? If I'm pursuing like another, financial benchmark, even though I am very happy financially, is that going to fill me with passion? Or is it something else? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Very often, I think it all depends on the goals you're setting. If you're setting kind of, I'm going to meditate 50 times this quarter, after a while that gets pretty old, doesn't it, and pretty dry. It's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, what am I pursuing? Is it a number of pounds? Is it the impact that money's going to make? What am I pursuing? That's a good question. What am I pursuing? I think I shared this in your study though. What motivates us? What motivates us changes through time, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we took that word pain, didn't we? And you were saying you can't just solely rely on pain to be the thing that pushes you. So, well, if that's not hanging around, then what pushes you? But from what you've just said, I think firstly we have to set the wrong goals, I believe, to direct us towards what's right, because it's process of elimination, right? Like, I think every young guy starting the journey, of course they want to better themselves, and that usually looks like they improve their health. Of course, they get in better shape, they might grow a business or get their shit together, but it's almost like you get your shit together so that you can, and then you fill the sentence in, don't you? It's like, okay, with this new mindset that I've got, this new approach to life, like, what do I do with it? Like, do I go after all the uncomfortable stuff, the big challenges, or do I sit back? And this is tough because, like, you never know until it's the end, right? Which is quite a scary prospect. But what I do know is you're not going to grow from staying comfortable. So this is something I've been looking really hard into. So you probably got a real great kind of insight into this. But this whole happiness versus purpose thing, and them being totally different. So you can live quite a purposeful and meaningful life. It doesn't mean you're happy. Yeah. And you can live a happy life with no real purpose.
Yeah, and sometimes that question, do people need to consider that question? Sometimes is that us thinking too much sometimes about our life? Do you know what I mean? It's a big question, but it's a great question, isn't it?
Well, I think some people are thinkers, aren't they? I'm a thinker, and I assume that other people are thinkers too. And you're right. Maybe some people are going, "Do you know what, Alex, shut the fuck up. I just want my dinner. I just want to chill out in front of the TV, be around the people that I love." And for me, that's great. And you're right. There probably are people that like that, and I really admire people like that. That, like you said, they don't really need to be doing any challenges. They don't really need growth because they've probably got everything that serves them at that level. But I think there's some people out there that need growth, progress, education. Well, I need to learn. Sorry, I
think there's people who want it. You're somebody who wants to grow. You're somebody who wants to seek out challenges, and there'll be people who don't, but they're probably not going to tune into this. It's just the way it is. They're like, what am I tuning into this for? You know, the people me and you predominantly speak to are people who want to create change. And I think it starts sometimes at the start because we're all in pain. You're in pain. I was in pain. We said, I need to change some shit. Like, I've got to change my life. And then that pain wears off. And then you're like, well, now what? I'm not in pain anymore. And so what's the answer? Keep finding pain? That becomes miserable. You know, it's like, do I keep finding pain, like pain points to keep growing? Or do I now grow out of what I'm passionate about and what I feel driven to do? What's pulling me in my life? What's important to me? I think they're the two transitions. If we don't make that transition, we're going to live a life of pain. Is my experience. It's like, well, I'm just finding pain. Why? Because it's good for me to grow. But we can grow through purpose and pleasure and passion as well, can't we?
We can, yeah. I think curiosity is a big thing as well. Like, you want to know what can you do with your time on this planet? Like, how far can you go? Like, what can you learn? But for me, I think it's less a case of searching for pain. It's probably accepting that it's part of the deal. So if I want to go to the next level side, for example, and this is just how I view it, it's not necessarily what I think the right way, it's just how I see it. I like the pain. Like, it's tasty, I like it, and I enjoy it because I know that there's pleasure attached to it, or there's growth attached to it. The gym's the great example, dude, right? Like, when you have a workout, you kind of like, you're putting yourself in a position of, pain. Like, you're choosing to be in pain so that you get the result, the reward. And for me, any purpose has a taste of that pain. Like, I know it's not the main driver, but it's almost, just acceptance of, like, I can't avoid the pain. If I'm going to avoid the pain, I need to stay at home all the time and be super comfortable. But eventually, what does that equal? For me, that would equal a lot of pain. I'd get out of shape. I'd get miserable. So it's like, it's a fine balance, isn't it? Where for me, they're all together. You can't have pleasure without the pain.
Yeah, no, I think what you're describing, you're not going to the gym though and thinking, I've got to find problems to improve. You're passionate about that. Like, you love it. And there's pain is a byproduct. It's uncomfortable. You love stretching yourself, don't you? That's what you're talking about. I'm stretching myself. That's uncomfortable. You're not like, I just need to find more problems to fix. You're like, no. You're growing out that way is what I see from you. What I see from people. I suppose what the flip side of that is when people just keep thinking, I got to find, when the pain wears off, say the uncomfort, say you were out of shape, I imagine at one point in your life. Can't imagine you popped out the fucking hulking beast you are. I don't know.
I was out of shape. Yeah.
And then you got in shape. And a lot of that pain probably wore off of how you felt about your body, probably a huge amount of it. And you're like, man, think of a person on a diet. Oh, I'm overweight, say. Oh, I've lost all this weight. I was driven by pain. Great. Because it's amazing to be driven by pain. It's brilliant. But then you're like, wow, I'm not overweight anymore. I look good. It's amazing. Now, if I'm only driven by that pain, I stop. And then most people slide back until they hit discomfort again and go, oh God, I've got to get in summer shape again. And they just make this ricochet effect, A, B. Whereas you didn't, did you? You were like, I'm in shape and I flipping love this. And I presume you pursue a bit more of a passion.
I wouldn't say it's been that smooth. I wouldn't say it was totally that smooth. Again,
not that smooth, of course.
There's been, pain has for years got me in and out of shape. And you're right, it's the most common thing I see with people that get in shape. The reason they started is no longer there. So they go back until that pain point, boom, it hits them hard again. And I had this conversation with a guy this morning. It was really interesting. So, what's harder, getting in shape or staying in shape? Well, it's staying in shape. Like you say, because the motivator for a lot of people is removed and it's a full-time job. Like, getting in shape is a challenge. It's great. It's motivating. It's rewarding. Staying in shape, you could argue that, actually, that's the real challenge. And I think that's when you know and learn a lot about yourself, when you don't need that pain. Like, what's left? Like, it exposes you, I think, when you're there, just like COVID did, I think, for a lot of people, it exposed people to their level of where they're at that current time. Some people handled it well. Some people took a positive outlook, some not so much, some crumbled, some didn't. And I think these challenges and these outcomes often just shine a bit of a light on us and show us where we're really out. And for me, that can be both, you know, painful and kind of like, you know, pleasant. You learn a lot about yourself.
There's no doubt pain is in life everywhere. We're all going to experience it. 100%. But like you say, use that diet example. That's where what we use to motivate us has to change, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? When we get somewhere, it's like, now my motivation has to change. My fuel has to change. It doesn't have to. But for example, we track everything. So in the programs, in the courses we run, we just track everything. So the last couple of years, we've just tracked and people in our program probably get fed up with it. But you know, there's about 90,000 data points a quarter on our app that we use to track what everyone's doing, how they feel, what they're doing, and we track on the way in, on the way out. And most people will drop off and fall back to square one after they initially get away from their problem. That's what there's nearly 1,000 odd people that have come through it in that time. And it's like they make progress. Becky loves the tracking. Make progress. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm great. Come through with 30-day. I'm on it. This is brilliant. I'm fixed. I've fixed my problems. And if they don't make that next shift, which is from fixing to building, I've got to build something now. I've got my head above water. What can I build? Where can I go? How can I grow from here? If we're just like, man, I'm fixed. And it's usually because the discomfort's worn off. They're not in discomfort anymore. So habits slide. And so it's the biggest mindset shift we got to try and make with people there is, yeah, great. You've got out of the shit, so to speak. What next? Don't just stay there. What are you going to build with? Where are you going to go? And I think a lot of us can't see what we want in that early stage. I mean, imagine what you want has changed, same as me, because you just can't see you can't see out of it. Someone who's struggling just can't see bigger things. But then you get your head above water and you're like, man, actually, there's more out here for me. And my priorities are changing. My passions are changing. My interests are changing. Yeah, actually, can I explore some of these? And for me personally, I have found that so beneficial to lean into what I'm passionate about and tap into that. That's and it does involve pain and discomfort. Like you're bang on. You have to hit obstacles and all the rest of it. But no need to like try and find problems to fix anymore, because I don't have any right now. If that's something, to be honest with you, it's just like, find any.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you 100%. I think when people are okay is what I would call the danger point. I always say in my programs, week 3 is the danger point, because people start to feel a little bit better. So they can start to take the foot off the gas, they can stop doing the things that got them out of pain. And they think, yeah, I'm cool now, I'm okay, And you're right. I think there's a bit of a vision issue for a lot of people, and not just people who are struggling. So I think people that are okay struggle for vision as well, because they're like, okay, well, with this new person that I'm building, I'm killing the old me a little bit slowly by slowly. What do I do with this new person? And I think some of it is just like the belief that they can do something different. So I think that's hard for all of us to think about our potential is quite scary. We don't know it. And I asked my guys the other week, I said, guys, what's tougher for you? I said, is it the vision or is it the plan and the actions behind it? And a lot of the guys said it's the vision. It's the vision, because we know we don't need the perfect plan. We know we can work out the plan. We know we can ask for help. We know we can, discover it on our journey. But unless we know what journey that is, where the fuck do we start?
Yeah. And the thing is, if you get an idea of where you want to go, you map out this great road to get there. And it's never the flipping road you go on anyway.
Wow.
The road sort of like, yeah, I've mapped this journey out. And then all of a sudden you're over here, you're over there, and you're back here, and you're over there, and you never can tell. Obviously, you want a plan, 100%. But I think I've learned that usually that plan is going to fall apart, or it's not the plan, and you learn on the way, don't you? You learn on the way, and I think sometimes it's needing to know how we're going to hit. I think we struggle to set visions because we try and then figure out how we're going to hit them before we set them. Well, how am I going to do that? So we don't set the vision. Do you know what I mean? You probably noticed that. I've certainly noticed it sometimes in me. It's like you got this vision, but before you can't allow yourself to think about it, because your brain's already trying to tell you, well, you don't know how to get there, or you probably can't get there. You just can't figure out how to get there. So you just can it and set a vision that you kind of know you can achieve, and then that's easy and boring, so it doesn't really inspire you, or it's not really what you want, and so you're stuck back in that same place. I mean, you've got to suspend, I think, logic sometimes in setting visions. I know that's a bit of a throwaway comment. People listen to be like, "What? Suspend logic? Logic? Like, you need logic? You do, but logic also kills a lot of dreams." Many of the things you have now in your life were probably not logical 5 years, 6 years ago. You probably can, but look what you're doing. If I look at my life now and go, well, 10 years ago, I was working in a supermarket. 11 years ago, I wouldn't think I'd be doing stuff like this or have, big programs with hundreds of people. I wouldn't think that. I'd be like, whatever, mate. I can barely flip in, sort myself out. It wasn't logical.
No, and it's those those little obstacles that you say you run into and the plan never goes. And I think that's what I'm referring to when I talk about pain. I don't necessarily mean I'm on the floor and I feel like shit. I'm talking about those moments of adversity when things don't go well. So I spend a lot of my time coaching guys how to deal with those things better. Because what I find the biggest problem is expectations. Like, we have an idea that it should go like this because it's in my head, and when it doesn't, boom, it's the fucking the wheels come off. Or I think when people start their journey, and again, I've only just discovered this side, a lot of humility is needed, because often you have to aim a little bit lower. And I'm not talking about with your vision, I'm talking about with your actions. So, and again, I refer to people getting in shape again. It's just the easiest way for me to refer. Like, most people have been trying to get into good shape for a long time, stopping, starting and failing because they ask too much. So they ask themselves to do those runs 3 times a week. They ask themselves to stick to the diet. And like history proves, they can't do it. So you almost have to have the humility to go, okay, I can't stick to that yet. I'm not ready. I can't do it. I'm not compliant enough. So what can I stick to? And sometimes those things are so low that a lot of the guys sometimes have a problem with that because it hurts their ego. They think they should be doing better, but they're not. The fucking truth sometimes hurts. And I had to start personal hygiene, dude. Like, Alex, just keep yourself fucking clean. Have a shower every day. Do your teeth. This was when I was at my lowest, because I weren't going to hit the 10K a month goals that I'd set, dude. No fucking way. No way. So I had to go back to those beginnings. And humility for me, I didn't realize what an important part of self-development is, especially if you're starting from the beginning, let's say.
And awareness, isn't it? It's bang on, mate. We all do it. We hit a bit of a painful point. We get that maybe we get ourselves the urge to change. It can be business, it can be relationship, whatever, body, and we just all of a sudden set this challenge that so far outweighs our skills, it's untrue. We're never going to be able to do it, and then we can't keep up with it. It's I'm so overwhelmed because I've gone from living like you said, I'm not even looking after myself with any form of hygiene, to trying to live like a flipping monk guru this week. And the disconnect, the gap is so big between your current skills and where you want to be that you just can't do it. Like going in the gym and saying, look at that massive hench bloke deadlifting a cup, 300 kilos. Oh, I need to do that. Like, you can't even move the bar. Well, I couldn't. You could probably. It's just, so it's like, well, what's the point? I'm not going to get anything. I think the best analogy I was given was tennis. They were like, look, if you want a good game of tennis, you're not going to pick the person who can't play tennis if you can play, because, you're not going to get hit. The ball's not going to be hit back. So what's the point? It's not challenging. But you're not going to go and play Rafa Nadal and he's going to be really serious, for example, because you're not going to get to return a ball. You're going to pick someone roughly your ability so you can get better, so you can have a great game and challenge each other. Our habits should be that. Do you know what I mean? They should be that tennis player that gives you a good game. Like, man, this is stretching me, but I can do it. I'm sticking in. I'm stuck in the game. Rather than just it's whizzing by me, or this is so easy, like I'm not even bothering. I think it needs to be whoever that is at tennis. I don't know.
But how many people overestimate their willpower? How many guys do you know, or ladies as you coach, like think they have more discipline than they actually do? It's quite high in my experience. Like every guy, like I used to, and it's with good. I'm not, again, this isn't being judgmental on people, because people have good intent. They want to do well. Of course they do. Yeah. But they assume that they have willpower. They assume that it's going to be around. They assume that they're going to be motivated. They assume that they've got the skill. And like you say, the word awareness and honesty, I think as well, you've got to be pretty tough on yourself here. I always say, like, being tough on yourself is sometimes the kindest thing you can do. And it hurts because you sometimes are not at the level you want to be, not even close. So what do you have to do? You have to start from the fucking bottom, which you never thought you would be.
Yeah, and I think you just got to be real with yourself, haven't you? All of us. It's like, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. Someone asked me the other day, actually, I think, it was like, do you think your program's world class? I was like, no, I don't actually. I don't think they just couldn't get the answer. And they're like, why not? I was like, because I'm in world class programs. I'm in them. And I've seen world class now. Like, I've probably thought I was, but I've seen it. And it's like, no, I'm not there. And that's honest for me. It's an honest answer. Like, no, I'm not there. I'm not there.
Same thing. If you ask me, I'd say no. And I think, I think that word world class is thrown around a bit too much. You know, it's to be world class, you've got to do something fucking special. Like, you know,
it's not the word legend. The word legend at football. Everyone's a legend now. You're like, I think that is an older player. I don't think they're a legend. Like, but no, honestly, someone asked me, I think it might have been Ross actually. I did a podcast with Ross, it might have been him. I've done a few lately. And I was like, nah, probably not. Because I probably thought I was. And then I've seen, like, inside the Flow Genome with Jamie Will, people like that, you're like, whoa, the level of delivery in there and the level of quality and stuff, you're like, man, it was a nice wake-up call for me. Like shit, this is really well delivered. Just the way it's delivered. Even the content's great. I mean, how it's delivered and the touch points, you're like, oh shit, this is levels above what we're currently doing in Unbreakable. And I'm inspired by that. It's a wake-up call, But that's what I mean about being real. You got to be real with yourself. You can keep telling yourself things are great, but if they're not, they're not. And
So what do you do then if somebody starts your program? And obviously the first step is, the vision, create the vision, picture this vision. But there's this massive gap between, current reality and where they're at. So let's just say they're overestimating their willpower, or opposite end of the spectrum, they don't feel like they're good for anything. Like, how do you create a vision from a point of feeling so low about yourself? Yeah.
So for me, this is just us, and we've been doing this a long time now. The better results we got was early on. So you imagine our courses are set up like to give you some background, like a syllabus. So you can't just come in and go, right, I'm setting some goals here and crack on. It's like, no, hang on a minute, you're going to go through a strategic journey with us. So even our free 7 days is that. It's getting people ready to make steps with us. And so early on there, we're just getting them to stop focusing on we get them to sort of focus on what they don't want. Here's what's going on I don't want. And we say, okay, what's the opposite direction of that? Literally, it's not, there's some specific stuff. It's like, what's the opposite? So we get them to sort of think about the opposite. And usually it's, well, I feel anxious and stressed and overwhelmed and I hate myself. Stuff like, well, how would you want to feel? I'd want to feel a bit happier and calmer. Okay, what were some things you might be doing? I'd be doing a few of these things in my day. Brilliant. Hold that in mind. You're going to come through a structure for 30 days where we're going to work on your skills. And it's our skills that are moving them forward. They may not be chucking in at this point with their goals, et cetera, et cetera. Then they might, after that, they move into academy, where all of a sudden they're starting to encourage to look a bit bigger. And it may be like, hey, what are some things you'd love to achieve in your life? And they start working towards goals. And as they work through the program, the goals get bigger, et cetera, et cetera. So early on, I used to say, right, set 5 goals, or set 3 goals, or set 2 goals. And people just used to have a meltdown about thinking about goals. The average person walking around is like, goals? Yeah, you need some goals. I can't even think about what I'm going to do today, let alone what I'm going to be doing at the end of the year. So we just took it out, mate, to be honest. I just said, let's move in a direction and we'll guide you with the skills. Now, of course, when you come into programs like High Performance Mind with us, someone who's in there is going, I've got goals. And we're like, great. You are setting goals. You are driving big visions. But early on, it's literally, let's get you moving forward and you follow our structure, which is upskilling you all the way. And that's how we've chosen to go about it. So for early on for people, it's just, if they weren't in something like ours, it's like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to be? That's the thing. And okay, what behaviors can you put in place that you know you can execute that are going to help you? Because that's all we're doing with people at the start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it makes sense. It makes sense. So I've even got more basic than that, which is incredible. So I start with a 7-day intro now instead of a 28. And the first thing I ask, the only real standard I set is show the fuck up. Please show up every day for 7 days. Because again, going back to being real, as you've mentioned in reality, dude, if you can't do something for 7 days, if you can't show up for 7 days, I'm sorry, man, but you don't deserve results.
Well,
you don't deserve showing up for 7 days. If you can't show up, you're never going to get anything, right? Like if you duck out every time you don't feel like doing the work, you're not going to get anywhere. And we can talk about goals, ambitions and everything, but if you go AWOL all the time, that's over.
Yeah. And I think it's up to us at that point. The only thing that's up to us is to make it easy for people to show up in our stuff. That's the way I look at it. It's like, I'm going to make this so easy to show up. You can't not show up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't not show up. Because I think early on in my career, I made things too hard. And so it was hard. And looking back, I'm like, I was probably demanding a lot of people there.
Well, I think we're trying to improve as coaches, don't we? You know, when we coach with our ego and we're young and we're trying to show our skills off. And again, I see a lot of coaches do this, and I think it's a big mistake. So they might do a 7-day program, and each day they're teaching something new. I'm like, you're teaching too much. You're just trying to show off your skill set. Like, make it so simple for these guys that they feel like they're winning. Like, let them win. They've been losing for so long. Set them up to win. Don't hinder them. Help them by making it easy as hell, and then tapping them on the back and saying, "Well done. Let's move to the next level."
Because most people coming into things generally have an opinion of themselves. At that point, we've all been there. Like, I can't make things stick. That's just me. We have this identity, I think, a lot of us. Yeah, I'm that way. I just never see things out. I always end up quitting. A huge amount of people just feeling down on themselves, knockback after knockback in life. And then, you come into a program and it's like, oh my God, this seems impossible. And I think you're bang on. It's how can you make it so simple that people gain momentum? That's the point of anything early on in coaching, isn't it? Let's get momentum under people's belt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's like I say, the word humility keeps cropping up for me from the coach and from the client. Like, you've both got to have it. So you've already said, and me 100%, I'm not the world's best coach. Nowhere near. Don't deliver the world's best program. Nowhere near. It can be so much better. And I think if you think like that, it will rub off on your clients as well. So nobody's saying here, like, we're the best. It's not about that. For me, I set up the program, The Better Man, because that's all we're trying to do. Become a little bit better over time. And I think if you keep that process, just trying to become better, like, over time, that's a radical transformation. That's what I try and remind people. This small task might seem small today, but if you repeat it 365 times and layer on top of it, it is an epic turnaround.
Yeah. Use the money example. It's like sticking a little bit of money in your bank every month away. It's not a lot until 10 years down the line. You go, yeah. Look at that. It's a fair bit of money there. Like you said, all transformation is going to happen from that compound interest, isn't it? That compound interest effect. But Tony Robbins says that, doesn't he? You underestimate what you can do in a year, overestimate what you can do in a week. And it's so cliched or something along those lines. But it's so true. It's so true. You're like, mate, it's so true.
Most cliches are true. Most cliches are, and that one that you've just rolled out there is brilliant. And I agree with that 100%. It's very, very true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive true, because you're like, we all, and I get it as well. And I think you get it. We want to get away from the pain. So we want to transform overnight.
Of course.
It's going to the gym, hitting the gym in it, when you first start, and jumping on the scale immediately after and being like, I ain't lost any weight. That old, and people do it. Go to the gym for a couple of days, jump on the scale. You're like, what are you expecting? Like, what are we expecting here? And we do it in the mindset game. Wow, I've been meditating a couple of days and I'm not floating around like flipping Yoda. It's like, what do you expect? I've been making a few posts on my business page and no one's interacting. Yeah, 2 days. What do you expect? Where are my expectations?
I was coaching a guy, and he's just smart. This guy's a smart motherfucker, by the way. Like, he's flying in his career, right? And he'd had this epic weight loss, and he was talking to me like it was nothing. So he was saying, you know, I'm not a bit disappointed with my progress. So I thought he was going to say like he'd lost a pound or something. Anyway, I said, dude, how much have you lost? He was like 17 pounds. And I was like, dude, that's fucking epic. Like, shut the fuck up. That's awesome. I said to him, like, you know, what number wouldn't you have been disappointed with? So if you're disappointed with 17, what number would you have been happy with?
Yeah.
And he didn't have an answer. So basically, it didn't matter what number he hit. He wasn't going to be happy with the result because he had no real understanding of what was good, what was progress, what wasn't. He just assumed that he could do so much better. And I'm like, this is one of the reasons why people are struggling, because their expectations are like, they're not even a fraction off. They're like a million miles away from what they should actually be experiencing. Like say a dude works out for a month and he thinks he should be a fucking men's health cover model. And I'm like, dude, we get a bit of reality here, man. Like,
I always wanted to be one of them. Just so
no, it's a boring life, dude. Boring.
I always wanted to be when I was younger. When I got into the gym, I'm going to be a men's health model. But we do it with let's talk about, you know, mental health, emotional health. We do it there as well. We expect that we're going to reach this point in our lives where there's no more uncomfortable emotions. Like I felt a bit stressed today. Yeah. Was your day stressful? Yeah. Yeah, that's why. It's like we think we're going to get flatlined like robots. Well, I've been doing some stuff, so now I only ever experience great emotions. It's like, no, that's not the point. Like, and it sounds silly, but anyone who's been through our stuff will know we make that point consistently. Like, yeah, it's natural. Stop running away from it. Stop thinking it's bad. Stop labeling it bad. It's a natural part of life. We feel uncomfortable sensations running through our body. And if you think that's never going to happen, you're always going to struggle, I think.
You're always going to quit. I think struggles you being kind. I think you're always going to be a fucking failure if you stop every time it gets tough. Do you know what I mean?
You're always going to be unhappy as well.
Huh?
You'll always be unhappy as well if you're like, man, I felt anxious this morning for the first time in 6 weeks. Like, it's like, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Chill, you know, it's okay. As in, like, you know, just use your skills. But we think we're just never going to experience those emotions again, in any way, shape, or form. And like you said, that's where people quit, never get where they want to go. Expectations are huge.
Yeah, I love it when a guy has a bad day in my group. I love it. And I love it when he returns the next day. I'm like, brilliant, dude. This is exactly what you need. I hate it when everything goes smooth for a client. So I love it when things go tits up for a client. So I'm like, brilliant. Like, this is your chance now to prove that you can have a bad day. You can feel like shit. Doesn't mean the journey's over for you, man. Like, let's go. Like you say, you've got to get used to that and go, today's been tough. Great. Like, I got through another day. I'm stronger. This is what I'm saying about the pain, the discomfort, the sadness, the anger. You've got to stay in the game at that point. You can't drop out when that's there. Otherwise, boom. Like you say, it's going to be a forever frustrating cycle. If you keep dropping out and expect it not to be painful, you've got to go in with that bit of armor on and go, right, let's fucking go.
I think when it comes up along the way, you just got to use it as a wonderful push-off point for most people. You know, it's like touching a hot surface, isn't it? It's like, it hurts. You come away from it. And I think, and that doesn't mean come away from it like quit. It means, like, for a lot of us, it's like it's a little wake-up touch point for us. You know, you are going to experience discomfort and pain moving forward. Without a doubt, you know, you are. Without a doubt. And like you said, it's how you deal with that counts. And for many of us, if we just think, oh my God, this is not wrong, and shy away, go back home, so to speak, we never get anywhere. But if we use it as a little bit of a push-off point, which will propel us forward or whatever, then it becomes powerful, isn't it? If you know,
absolutely,
that way.
Do you think, in terms of like the mental health situation, do you think it's getting worse? Like, do you think people are suffering more now, or do you think we're starting to go into a time where things are becoming better?
No, I think it's worse. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I feel comfortable talking about mental health. I mean, I don't dress it up like that, but I'm just so confident in what we do because of the data we have. Just to, you know, to be completely transparent with it, you're like, no, we track everything, and we use the same forms of tracking that top people use, like the PANAS scale and the trauma scales. So I know what we do is legit. So I feel like I can have a decent voice about it. And I just think it is going to get worse. But maybe things do get worse before they get better. You know, all the measures that are being put in place because there's there is much more awareness now, isn't there? There's much more campaign. There's much more stuff going on. Whether that's good or bad or useful, let's talk about that in a second. Yeah, we will. But I think I was thinking about this the other day. If you put a change in here and you got all these people struggling, the momentum of the past is going to carry on for a while, isn't it? Before those changes take effect. So will we improve it? I think we will. However, I'm trying to be nice here. However, I think there's a lot of stuff which don't help. I think there's a lot of things that don't help people. I'm not a massive fan of huge amounts of influencers using it to sell their story. Put it that way. That doesn't do it for me. And that's not saying that's bad. I'm not saying like these people are bad people. I'm saying is if I'm growing up and I'm using Instagram and every day somebody's telling me how bad their mental health is, but they're pulling through and they're doing it, I don't know whether that's useful. Because there's been lots of studies on things like therapy talk, how therapy talk is infiltrating our language. So you've got kids going, yeah, I've got intrusive thoughts. You're 11. How do you know that terminology? How do you know it? I never knew that at 11. I doubt Alex sat there going, yeah, I think I've got intrusive thoughts, 11 years old. For me, too much awareness creates problems that aren't there for a lot of people. And that's not to say these people aren't experiencing problems. Don't hear that. For a lot of people, though, it's like maybe there's something wrong with me because I feel a bit off. I feel a bit down. I feel a bit sad. Or maybe there's a bit something wrong with me. Maybe there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you're stressed because you got an exam. Maybe you're all of these things. It doesn't necessarily mean your mental health is in fucking downward spiral. So I'm not a massive fan of over-awareness. I'm not a massive fan of social media, people using their story, consistently jamming it down people's throats as inspiration. I think they use Facebook as a fucking place to express their open wounds. And I don't know how useful that is for people. I think many people watching that we get come through are like, God, it's so nice to be in groups where I'm not constantly talking about my problems. I almost realize I haven't got any at the minute. It's like, wow, amazing. Do you know what I mean? It's where is hyper-awareness creating more problems than it's solving? That's the question I would ask anyone.
I think you've nailed it right there. I think what you're saying is spot on. I don't think all this awareness and, and even encouraging people to talk. Yes, we know there's benefits to opening up and telling people when you're struggling.
Hugely.
But like you said, when you start to resort to, I'm having a bad day today, I'm down and depressed. Well, slow down. Are you down and depressed? Or are you tired? Are you off? Are you not eating well? Have you not been outside today? We could cure a lot of, and I say the word cure loosely, but we could solve a lot of the mental health issues by just stop getting pissed up at the weekends. Stop getting fucking pissed up at the weekends. Stop eating shit. Get outside. Do the things and accept that not every day is going to be sunshine. I think now when we have those days, we assume that we're depressed. We're down. When real depression is crippling, you're in bed. The world sucks. For me, there's different levels. And you're right. I think to, go on social media and shout about your issues is sometimes it's a little bit of victim mentality. But reality is, you get the attention often that you're looking for on social media.
Yeah, and also for a lot of people, it's marketing. Being blunt as it is, it's and that's true. It's I'm just marketing what I'm doing. And that's, I think that's part of it. Everyone's big on social media about people body shaming, like people presenting amazing bodies and airbrushing, because it's like that sets a terrible example. But sometimes it doesn't set a great example to have people on telly and on social media just talking about how bad their mental health is. Because when I was a kid, right, having an inhaler became cool. It did. You had an inhaler. You were quite cool at primary school. I wanted an inhaler. I wanted one. And I'm telling you what, you speak to a huge amount of parents now. They're in the same boat with kids. They're like, it's almost becoming fashionable to have a problem. And that's not being said with no empathy or love, but it's like, it's almost like if you're surrounded by people all the time talking about problems, eventually you're going to fucking have one. You know, it's going to happen. And for a lot of people, there's things that have happened, experiences, trauma, 100%, I get it. But even then, eventually, talk therapy, 50% effective in major studies at dealing with that. So there needs to be more than just talk. It's not either or, is it? You've just got to talk and talk. It's like, actually, it's not just talk. It's, yeah, talk, open up. But what about your physiology? What are you doing? Where are your habits at? Where are your sleep at? Chronic undersleeping has been massively linked in huge studies to an inability to process traumatic situations, an inability to remember. So you imagine most of the country is chronically underslept, massively. And we just go, yeah, that's the way you go. You've got to grind on. But that lessens the ability to let go of shit. That's why when we're tired, we harbor on to stuff, don't we? Let's be honest, it's simple as that. But imagine chronically. It's like, I can't let go of the shit in my life. And also, I can't remember new information. So what are you going to change there? And so I get quite passionate about this because also, you know, physical health is really important. And I think we've gone the other way with physical health, to be honest. It's like, it's almost frowned upon to be in shape for a lot of people. Oh, it's terrible. You know, it makes people feel bad if they're not in shape. Well, maybe people could improve their health, and maybe people would benefit from improving their health physically. You know, why are we making it almost like okay to not look after your physical health? That's okay. They're happy. Yeah, they're happy. But if they're happy, great. But a huge amount of people aren't happy and not looking after their physical health. But you're making it okay. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I think we've got all these mixed messages going on at the minute. And yeah, that's where I'm at on that, Alex. So let's go off on a tangent. But
no, it's tough talking, but I agree with you. I never really thought too much about the marketing because I just, again, I don't like to think that people would use that kind of angle to market their own business, but we know it happens. And I think you're right. There is a lot of there's a lot of so much censorship that is going to be brought into what we do and what we can say in the next few years, all based around, look, we don't want to upset and hurt people's feelings. Like that, everything's going that way. And you're right, it's becoming a bit of a trend. So apparently now it's quite trendy to identify as something or somebody else. And it's even, you know, congratulated now in schools and stuff. People come out and they say, I'm going to identify as a female or a male. And it's trendy. It's the cool thing to do. Oh, isn't that great? And we're creating these trends almost. Yeah, and I'm not sure that pushing talking, because firstly, talking, you've got to be careful who you talk to. And you're right, sometimes you're reinforcing the problem. So again, so what I've been studying lately is, yeah, most therapy isn't effective. Most therapy isn't effective. Just talking about your problem is not often enough. It's not effective. It's more about what you do, not what you say.
Yeah, and also, if it's traumatic, you know, so we have a lot of advisors in Unbreakable. We have a grief advisor. We have counseling advisor, just to make sure what we're doing is effective. You know, we following best practices, etc. I think that's important. I don't know everything. Yeah, I like to think I do sometimes, but I don't. And a huge amount of sort of the way we feel. So me, you, anyone watching, for a lot of people, an experience has caused that. There's been an experience. It's changed the way we felt. It's changed our life. And the way we go about it is to try and talk about that, isn't it? You know, I'm going to talk that out and I'm going to find new meaning around it, etc., which is very beneficial. But that traumatic event is always stored in our nervous system. And that's why I could fall out with you, Alex, and I could really emotional charge. Me and you have a proper ding dong, and then we could make friends. I could see you and it never quite feel the same again. Never quite let it go. You're like, yeah, Alex, all right, but you know. And that's because we store shit like that in our nervous system. And we've got to learn to express it out. And you're not going to express it solely through speaking. That's got to almost be discharged from your nervous system. And that's very different practices. Do you know what I mean? And I think anyone worth their salt knows that now. You know, I did a huge amount of that in the flow genome work. It's like, how can you fucking defrag your nervous system? How can you let go of this shit out of your nervous system? A lot of that is why psychedelics, not exactly, but a lot of that is why they're using that in stuff like that work now. You know, get the brain offline, let shit fucking fly. And that's a very simplistic way, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So I think you can talk all you like and find new meaning, but unless you have practices to let that go on an energetic level, that you'll always be, the cool word, triggered. You know, you may have made up, but then you see them and that trigger happens, it all comes flooding back. You know, you may have a panic attack in a coffee shop and you can kind of make sense of it, but you walk back into a coffee shop and before you know it, your brain's going, da, 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 da. You're like, oh my God, I'm having another panic attack. You've got to get it out your nervous system. That's why sleep's so important on a baseline, I think. It's why different breath practices can be important, allowing space in your life, meditation, when you sit deep and your nervous system kicks out a lot of stress. I think all that's really important for people.
Yeah. And it's another reason why I like my guys to have some form of challenge in their life. I often find the lack of challenge and depression is quite heavily linked when somebody doesn't really have any feeling of purpose or any sense of achievement. And there's a lot of benefits physiologically as well to having a challenge that requires you to get off your ass, do something. And like you say, it's not just a mindset thing. You know, hormones are produced when we move. You know, when we train, adrenaline is pumped around our body that makes us feel good in right amounts. Have that. If we don't have that stimulation, then we're always going to struggle. So we need to pick our challenges, right? Because you're going to get challenged even if you sit on your fucking ass and do nothing all day. Like, life is a challenge. So it's more about, well, which challenges do we want in our life? Do we want the ones that are going to grow us and make it better? Or do we want the ones that are more comfortable?
Yeah. And picking the important ones. I think that's crucial, isn't it? You got to pick the important ones. If you're just picking ones because I've told you to pick one, it's like, it's not the same, is it? When you've got an important, like, no, actually, it's not.
I don't like to put too much importance on decision making for the fact that it often scares people into making none.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when people think their next move is their big move, and if they get it wrong, it's fucked, and if they get it right, they're to the world. I'm like, do you know what? No decision is. Yeah, okay. Some have different values than others, but so something I'm guilty of. It's like, it's okay if this isn't the right decision. It's better than no decision.
It's okay to, yeah, definitely. And it's even with, you started the call, the conversation about goals, and it's the same with that. It's like, sometimes it's okay not to set one if you just don't, at this point. You don't have to set it right now if you don't know what really is important. I think sometimes, just get a direction, keep doing your stuff. At someone like your level where you're at now, you can go a little bit without, knowing what you're going to be working towards. You can keep ticking over. And I think when you allow that space, something presents itself, a desire, a want or something. But if you never allow the space, right, you fill it, if you fill the space with meaningless stuff to chase, you never realize what's meaningful. Do you know what I'm trying to say? If you fill it with unmeaningful things, I've got to keep moving. I think that's where just take it all out for a bit and go, right, I'm sat here and like, I'm still working, I'm still doing my stuff, but I'm not quite sure where I'm going. And then eventually something presents itself, like, yeah, that's it, I'm after that. Do you know what I mean? But you can't get that if you're always chasing something that's not important.
Yeah, I had Phil Highland on the podcast, and we've got a slightly different style of doing things. But I think you have to get it wrong first. I think you have to go down the whole, let's set some meaningless, because, well, they're not meaningless goals because they take you to a good place. But I think you have to set your goals. I think you have to, like you say, that's the best process for me. You start working out what doesn't work for you. Yeah. And then it teaches you, it educates you. And like you say, you no longer then set more goals. It's more about, okay, I'm an adventurous man. I'm a curious dude. I'm a healthy man, and they equate to the things you do. So they're the goals. Like, I want more adventure. I want more flow in my life. I want more growth. They become the goals, not just the specific tick boxes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. You're just picking a direction to go in, and you're traveling it and seeing what comes up is what I'm hearing now. Like, I want more adventure, not this is the adventure I must go on, and that's my goal.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to go on an adventure and I'm going to keep moving. And you might see 3 or 4 adventures that eventually, oh yeah, that one, let's crack on.
Well, part of
I'm
adventure.
I'm a big fan of space. I'm a big fan of. I've always got something to work towards in life because I got things that are important to me, much like yourself. But I like having space sometimes just to check it is important. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, otherwise you're in it and you can't see, because you're so in it, you can't see any further out. Like, you have to step out of it to see it. And I heard this cool thing today that was saying that time speeds up as you get older because normally your days are more alike. So every day becomes the same. As an adult, if you think, dude, like most people get up, same time, have a bowl of cereal, go to work, come back, see the family and the kids and watch TV. And it's like every day becomes that, therefore time goes quicker. Yet when you're on holiday and you're doing a different routine, or when you're young and you're experiencing new things all the time slows down because, yeah, you're having fun, you're experiencing, you're adventuring, you're in the present moment. Time isn't passing you by because your head's in the phone. Like, you're actually awake. You're not asleep.
Yeah, that's one of the most dangerous things, by the way. Where did you read that anyway? What was that in, or where did you hear it?
Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter.
Nice. Sounds like something I've read previously, but not there. Yeah, I think I don't know what I was going to say now. I'll be honest. I got lost in the Comfort Crisis.
Slowing down because you do the same shit every day.
Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. It must have been good though. My mum would say it must have been a lie. Can't remember. It's been a lie. It's like, no, it
must have been good. Yeah. So it's like, of course, we need these structures and routines. You know, we want to stay in shape. We want to do things every day that are going to serve us. But we need to have that flexibility to live a life that's not pinning us down so much. And I think he's in that book. He's like, I woke up one day and I realized for 10 years I'd been doing the same thing every day, like literally doing the same thing every day, and I didn't even know. What you were going to say, Si, is I think it's you were about to say something dangerous. I think when I mentioned having your head in the phone.
That was it, the head in the phone. Yeah, you got it. I was just saying, I was listening to something the other day. I can't think where it was. It might have been a Stephen Cutler thing. And he was talking about what happens in the brain when we're just doing that, like a TV. Like part of the brain goes offline, but your visual stuff's still, because you're like monged out in it, but your visual stuff's still processing. So you're not engaging your brain, but you're draining it. And that's what most people like would do a lot of that. Screen, not really engaging our brain, but using a lot of its resources. So we end up even more tired. You know, I'm so tired, I'm just going to watch TV all day. It's like, nah, you're going to be more tired come Monday for that. Do you know what I mean? You need to do something that engages your brain a little bit, give it a reboot. But no, I love what you said about time, because it's true. Time, you could get into a whole debate about time, couldn't you? Time, does time speed up? Is our perception of time speeding up? Yeah.
I think so. I think, you know, we all say, oh, time's going so quick. And I think it's partly because of the way we're behaving. So, yeah, of course it does, because you're asleep for half of the day. You've got your head in your fucking laptop. You've got your head in your phone. Yeah, of course time's flying by because you're not even aware it's passing.
Yeah. It's also, I think for a lot of us, it slows down daily in the stuff we don't like doing. Time drags, and then we get to the stuff we like, and it might speed up, and then weeks blend into months and years, and all of a sudden you're like, I have done nothing different for 5 years.
I know. And then it's tough, right? Because then you've got a mortgage, then you've got kids, then you've got these big obstacles, which kind of really daunting for people. And I get it. It's like, how do I get myself out of this lifestyle that I've created that no longer makes me happy, but I've got all these things attached to it and responsibilities. It's a tough move, isn't it? It's a tough one to manage. It's a tough one to change.
Yeah, and I think that's where you come right back to what we were talking about. You just got to build momentum in a different direction, and momentum's going to be built with those small, easy to do things. I like BJ Fogg. I like his Tiny Habits stuff. I think it's spot on. I love
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, for me, but you know, like everyone's obsessed with Atomic Habits, right? You know, James Clear.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, brilliant. Me too. But BJ Fogg stuff's like, you're going to be like, wow, that's dead simple. Like anyone could consume that who's not used to the work we do, right? And go, oh, that makes sense. Whereas I think sometimes the other stuff, like you know, the Atomic Habits, maybe people who are reading it who just like, I'm trying to sort my life out, might look at it and go, oh, God, it's a lot here. But for for real, I call it like real people. I think you go on BJ Fogg's stuff, you're like, yeah, that's simple, innit? 3 steps. Fucking hell.
I can't remember what this is called in psychology terms, sorry, but I noticed I have become guilty of this, where as a coach or just as a human in what level you're at, you have this tendency to think that other people will find it simple as well. So if I find Atomic Habits simple, which I do, you assume that other people will find it simple.
Yeah, because exactly.
Yeah, it's not true at all.
No.
So you're right, like taking it back to basics. But again, that delivers for me then. And again, I had this with a conversation with a guy today. Most people would read that BJ Fogg book and go, yeah, I know what to do. And I'm like, everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows what to do. So you can't say that any longer. It's not about what you know. It's about what you do. I've said this a couple of times today. Like every guy knows what to do to get in better shape. Every guy.
Yeah.
So the transition of well, how do you move into the person? And there was something when I was checking out your Facebook for a picture, a good picture. It was very, very difficult to find a good picture of you on Facebook looking handsome. I couldn't find one, so I just picked one. There was a video that you said about something about advice. You don't need advice. You don't need advice. You don't need telling what to do. And yeah, this is something I'm learning over time now. Like we don't need to tell ourselves what to do. We don't need to tell ourselves. We need to slow down, like you said, create space and ask, what can I do that's going to make my life a little bit better? Not you need to eat well, you need to train. That shit never works. You need to step back and ask yourself some questions.
I did that video because most people say, Sire, can you give me some advice on what to do with this? And I'm like, oh, not really. It actually comes from what inspired me was something Jamie Wheel put in a flow thing I did, which was about and I know a lot of the flow people say this, but you know, it's personality doesn't scale, biology does. And I think that, you know, sometimes when I talk about the influencer sort of stuff in our thing, people are just like go into them to try and copy them or get their advice and all this stuff. And it's like, you've got a completely different life. You've been through so many different things, and that advice doesn't necessarily fit into your life right now and scale up. But what does scale on everybody is biology, the way you work.
Yeah.
It's like the feed it, you know, give the man a fish, that old advert that was on when I was a kid, and he'll feed a family for a day, give him the means to fish and the tools, and he'll feed a family for a lifetime. That's my take on coaching. It's like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what my thought processes are on life. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think for yourself. These are the skills. I'm not here to teach you how to feel. I'm, you know, to what to feel. I'm, here to teach you how to feel. And I don't care what you want. Don't want what I want. You'd be miserable. But what do you want? That's my job. That's the job of our programs and our courses. And so that's what I meant by that. Like biology scales, it's not my quote, not personality. And that's why I think sometimes we look at, you know, famous people and we're like, man, like, you know what they're doing? You know, what are they doing? It's like, it doesn't matter what they're fucking doing. You know, ultimately it's the skills you need, not like what we see, so to speak, and the advice. Oh, you know, all that advice people throw out. It's like, fucking hell, may as well just wash off your back.
Yeah, and I had a bit of debate with myself on this with my program, because there's so little rules apart from show the fuck up and post, you know, be accountable for the day. Because I didn't want to go down the road of you need to do 10,000 steps, you need to track calories. Because I'm like, well, not everybody needs to track calories. Not everyone needs to do 10,000 steps. Like you can get in incredible shape without doing 10,000 steps a day. Like I've seen it, I've done it myself, and I'm like, well, that doesn't suit everybody. So it's like, okay, I've got this program. There aren't many rules. Like this is your journey. What I'm going to help you do is become more accountable on it. I'm going to help you make better decisions so that you can get closer to your journey. And that's a hard thing as a coach, because I think the young Alex would have wanted to say, this is how we do it. And this is the way. Now it's more like, no, dude, it's your goal. You decide the process. I'm going to hold you accountable and I'm going to support you on that journey.
Yeah. You know, one of the best mentors I've ever had, and I've had loads of great mentors, is Jason Kane and Sean McGarity as a combination of people in my life. I've been working with them a long time. Both very different and very different, you know, very, very different. Just put it that way. Personality is different, bring different skill sets, incredible. I think Jay, actually, to be honest, he made me more aware of this. That I think I used my ego a lot in coaching, and he never told me that. I think he allowed me to see it for myself eventually. And it's a hard realization when you realize maybe you've been driven by ego a little bit, and maybe it's more about you than it is about the stuff, the people.
Well,
it's a hard one to swallow because you don't want to think that's you, but sometimes you're like, man, I have been a bit that way actually. I have made this a bit about me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, again, I think I'm okay with that. I know those mistakes have happened, but I think this is what you do for me, Si. I think you shine a bit of a light onto me where you've never, in the program that we met in Unstoppable, you brought an element of calm to it. Paul was brilliant. He gets you fired up. He got me back on track. He brought me back or helped me bring back a good life. But you always had this, like I said, just this calm, underwriting approach to things, and I never had that in my own game. And you always kind of like shone a light on that for me, because you don't seem like you coach from an egotistical point. You seem quite cool. You seem like you're not that bothered what other people are thinking. This is what it seems from an outside perspective for me anyway. And you seem quite cool with just doing your thing and being okay with it. And that's it. And I think that's probably why I found my way back into your attention, and wanting to speak to you again, because it's just
I think, you know what, to be completely transparent with you, let's be transparent about it. I think my ego came out more when I left Unstoppable.
When you left?
Yeah.
What?
I think I found it difficult leaving. I think I found the ending of it tough, to be honest with you. I think I don't know, it was I probably created a little competition in my own head there.
Okay.
And that's where it came out in me. I could feel it. Like I was not being me for a while. I was being more competitive, and I'm competitive. Don't get me wrong, and that's good. But I wasn't running my own race for a little bit, and that's just me being completely transparent and completely honest. And I could see that coming. And why that was, there could be multiple factors in that. Maybe I felt I wasn't treated fairly. Maybe I felt lots of things. But I find that transition difficult as a coach. I was like, all right. It was like a good chunk of my life was cut off. And people might listen to that and think, well, it's only a program or whatever. But it was a real shift in my identity where I was like, all right, I'm going to build something better than that. That was and that's what they had to point out. Like, what are you doing this for now? And it was a shock. I had to sit and take that on board. Somebody who people consider, like you said, oh, you're calm and you're this, and I am. That is, people come to me and say, your mindset stuff is phenomenal. Yes, but mate, don't get it wrong. I got caught. Everyone gets caught up in shit, and I certainly got caught up in some shit at that point in my own head, and that's why they pointed it out. I'm not an egotistical person, really, but that's where they pointed it out to me, and just had to check me, give me a clip in the only way they could, them Irish boys. And just say, hey, come on.
Yeah, it is tough when you leave a group like Unstoppable. I mean, it's a powerful group, and but I don't understand why some coaches step outside of that group and make it more personal than it needs to be, or make it too competitive. So if I stepped out Unstoppable at any point, I'd have nothing but gratitude for Paul. Nothing but gratitude. And I think it can be left like that. I don't think anything else needs to come of it. It's tough, but you're part of this group of guys, and then all of a sudden you're not. There's a lot of fear there. Yeah, it's quite lonely. What if people don't follow?
Maybe for a lot of people in stuff like that, and I'll try and make sure it doesn't happen in our stuff. The cut can be so drastic that it's like a relationship breakup for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it's your crew. Yeah, of course.
I think it is. For example, the day I left there, people didn't speak to me for years. Seriously, you're like, all right, like it was like that was it, and I might have gone to speaking for Paul every day, or every other day, and that was it. Boom, nothing for a long time, and you're like, that's where your ego says, what? Fucking hell.
I think we realize sometimes we're not that important. None of us are that important, and that hurts. You like to think that we are, and you're like, actually, you're not. You'll be forgotten about very quickly.
Yeah, and that's where I learned a big lesson, and I learned it and it made sense last year to me. I was doing some stuff with some people, and they were talking about different relationship styles: transactional, virtuous, and hedonistic. And they were saying sometimes a lot of discomfort happens when we think so much virtuous or transactional or hedonistic, and the other person doesn't think that. So that happens in business all the time, right? You might think we're virtuous, we're thick and thin, and then actually it's transactional. That client leaves, and you're like, oh fuck, it was just transactional for them, and it causes discomfort. Do you know what I mean? I think so. We've got to be mindful in programs like ours, with our stuff. People, it is quite virtuous for a long time. Like you're helping people out, but they are transactional relationships. When the person's got what they need or whatever, that generally, they go and do something else.
But it's the same for the coach, right? So if your guys stop paying you, that transactional relationship, it's done, right?
Yeah. So,
and I think this can work both ways, can't it? Where the client sometimes thinks that you're helping them out, maybe in a different way to, like you say, the perception of what they think. So, like, I love all my guys to bits. I love coaching them, but I'm coaching them because they're in my group and they pay me to coach them.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, of course. And there's friendships developed and so on. And yeah, I think when that separation happens, it can sometimes be a bit tough for the coach as well. So I'm sure you've been in this stage, Si, where a client drops out and you're like, well, is there something wrong? Have I done something wrong? Like, what's wrong with my fucking program now? Have you got what you wanted from me, bitch? Like, is this us done? But yeah, I think that can flag up a lot. And I think when you become really comfortable, and you're probably at this level now, like somebody could leave and it no longer becomes personal.
Yeah, certainly for me, I understand people do what's best for them, and you got to think. Sometimes disappointing when you think, God, I know you didn't get where you wanted to get to, and maybe you're not here for a reason which. But many of the people we train, they get what they want out of it, and they go on to better things, and that's our job. That is our job. They go beyond us, and that should always be the coach's job. They grow beyond us eventually. And that's where it's not about us. It's about them and their results.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a guy who's doing amazing that I'm working with at the minute, and he said something that was both brilliant but made me feel a bit uncomfortable at the same time. He was like, literally like, the program's changed my life. I don't know what I'd do without it. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, that's great, but do you know what, dude? You'd be fucking fine without the program.
Yeah, of
You'd
course.
be fine without it. Yeah, and there's a lot of what we don't want to do as a coach is make people dependent on us. Yes, we want them to keep coming back. Yes, we want to keep serving them. Yes, we want to keep helping them. We want to see them grow, of course. But I think there's a real fine line where they're dependent on us. Whereas if we didn't coach them anymore, boom, things would crumble and they'd go back to their old ways. And that's a skill as a coach to teach your client through that.
It's also our job not to create too many of those connections, because it becomes if someone's just there because they feel they owe you to be there, for example, they need to be there. After a while, you're like, you're not here for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's up to us to notice that, I think, and change. It's when does community stop being useful and become, actually, I'm just tied in here because it is what it is, and I can't imagine not being in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to be here. It's like, well, everyone needs to be the same, and we all need to be like each other because this is my crew. It's like, no, there is, that becomes fixed mindset thinking to me. Like, it's powerful. You got to have them. Fucking hell, we run communities like this. But personal development, particularly, should improve the rest of your life, not become something that's just for you and no one. Like, you should be using that to go and impact our lives. Do you know what I mean? We have to branch out eventually and be like, yeah, I still got my amazing community of people that get me and I love it, but also I am engaging in my actual life as well.
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? But I think sometimes we don't do that. It's like, no, this is a secret thing for me. It's like,
yeah, I think sometimes the life can be self-improvement, and like you say, you spend less time enjoying it because you're always like you've highlighted from the start, trying to fix something because that's your thing. You're in the game of self-development where, well, actually, you develop your life so that you can enjoy it more. You get in shape so that you can have a better life. Don't forget to have a better life whilst you're getting in shape. But I think this is the first time created a community where everyone's on their own journey. Like, everybody's doing something different, which is amazing to see. There's less restraint, there's less rules. The only rule is, like, if you say you're going to do something, do yourself a favor and do it. That's it. And it's quite nice to see that. I've never really had that in the coaching group.
Nah, I did when I did the guest in your group. Great group of blokes. I mean, those sort of things are amazing for people. I think particularly men, who don't have those communities sometimes anymore. Like, and a lot, it's not all females either, but a huge amount of females, huge amount of women will have those communities where they get together with their mates more, and they're doing stuff and they're going out. But I think a lot of men become quite insular. I think a lot of less men play sport. I don't know if the stats are true, but when I grew up, my dad, he played football, he went to the pub on a Friday night, and he did stuff on a Sunday, and he took us out. But he had these little communities, these little touch points with men and chatting. And a lot of that's gone out of a man's life. I'm not saying every man should go to the pub, but I just mean, where are these little touch community points for a man at this point? I can only speak from a man. It's like, I think sport does that for people. Team sport. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. But this is where we've got to be careful now, because laddish culture will probably run out. Like you say, it used to be more banter between guys, and it was a guy thing to do. You go out, you share a few beers, have a few laughs, and that seems to happen less and less now. Like you say, there's less male environments, I'd say, which is, I think, one of the main benefits to being in a group where everyone's on the same kind of path, right? You feel part of something. A lot of guys I know spend a lot of time with, obviously, their wife, their daughters, and they don't have any male company. They don't have any male role models. They don't have anybody sometimes to give them a little bit of a boot up the arse when they need it. And they're on their own, or they're around female company all the time, and they start to lose their masculinity, which, again, sounds like a bit of a swear word now for a lot of people. It's not a bad thing.
It's funny how we've transitioned, though. Like, we mentioned, for example, like, my dad went to a pub on a Friday, and all of a sudden it's like this laddish behaviour, But I walk over to I live in the sticks, that. I walk over from the office. There's a pub over there, and every time I go there, there's the same group of old men sat in the corner, like 4 or 5 of them, playing a bit of cards, having a few. It's far from laddish. Do you know what I mean? But I imagine that is phenomenal. They must be in their 70s. I imagine that is phenomenal for their well-being. Maybe not the alcohol, but to be in there, converse, having a laugh, having a bit of a joke with another group of men. They're not isolated anywhere. That must be phenomenal for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might to walk into the pub, having a beer, having a laugh with your mates for a few hours, walking back, reading the paper.
This is where I'd argue, like, is staying at home and not having the booze better for you than going out having the booze and being around your social crew at 70 years old? I'd argue, have the fucking beer.
Yeah, they're not doing shots at the bar, like they're not getting lashed out.
Like you say, you look at that and there's just something instinctual about it that you go, that's cool as fuck.
Yeah,
a group of guys sitting around playing cards, chatting shit, probably having a little bit of a moan about the wife or whatever. Cool. Like, do more of that. And when I went to Norway and spent some time in Norway, there were guys meeting for coffees, and it was really weird for me. I was like, guys don't meet for coffee, guys go to the pub, or I'll meet my mate for a night out. We won't go for a Starbucks. But in Norway, they put these things down and they were speaking to each other. Yeah. And it was fucking insane. I was like, well, something's wrong because that don't look right. Do you know what I mean? This is how we are now, to just, let's go for a chit chat and a coffee with a mate. Things like, we don't do shit like that, man.
No. And I think it's important.
The booze itself, not the friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, mate, you're right. And that's why groups like this, in the modern world, we're very connected online now. So you can get, groups like yours, you get connected online. I think it's cool. Then you get the physical meetups and somebody to share your goals with, and all that sort of stuff, your aspirations, working together. I think, that is one thing that benefits everyone, I think, in having that. You can't, that's a different kind of talking, isn't it? Yeah, say it's good to talk. It's a different kind of talking. It's good to talk. What that should come with some kind of disclaimer next to it. It's good to talk, but here's the sort of things you might want to talk about.
We're only saying here that, like, social isolation leads to loneliness, which is dreadful for your health. I agree. I think when you're lonely, things aren't good. But I think also loneliness can come from not having the right community. So you can be around people, But if those people share no common interest with you, or they're taking you down a path you don't want to go, I think you can be surrounded by people and still feel real fucking lonely, which is why our groups have the power that they do. It's like, oh, these guys want to better their life too. Like there's a shared common interest.
Yeah. Well, it comes back to the difference between being alone and loneliness, isn't it? You can be alone and not feel lonely at all.
100%, dude. I sat by the river the other day with my book on my own. I felt great. The sun was out. I had a cup of tea and my book. I felt great.
Yeah. And you could have been in a group full of 50 people, but felt really lonely.
Exactly right. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all been there when we're in a crew and we just don't feel part of it.
I think loneliness is a real problem, actually. Yeah, just
huge. Yeah.
Maybe end there. A lot of us feel lonely, just lonely. But is it loneliness we're experiencing? I don't know. You know, when people talk to me, I feel so lonely. I feel so lonely at home, or I feel so lonely. You know, is it loneliness, or is it a feeling that there's something missing in us? I remember feeling that way, where being on my own was fucking catastrophic for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm the person who can quite happily get space, get some time on your own, sit with yourself. You know, for me, is it loneliness, or is it just a lack of self-worth? You know, it's interesting, isn't it, what we term as loneliness? I feel lonely. Is it really lonely, or is it you feel like something's missing?
Well, I think they go quite hand in hand, those two. So let's talk about the connection like you can get through social media and playing the computer games. Like if you're a young lad now, it's quite common to spend a bit of time on your computer playing other people. But that connection's not a strong emotional connection. Yeah, you might be connected to the world and playing other people, but you're on your own in your bedroom playing some guy on the other side of the world at a computer game. You're not going to get the same interaction as you would playing cards, sat around the table with your friends having a beer. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. That's not interaction. So the world is set up for you not to go outside now. In fact, I heard this stat yesterday, 92% of Britons don't get outside each day, which means only 8% do. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, of course you're going to be lonely if you spend all your time doing the things that take you away from actual human interaction. But that's quite normal. And this is what was scary about this book. It's like, it's normal now not to mix with other people. And COVID was the worst thing that happened for people because don't go outside, people, isolate. And it's like, yeah, let's continue this path. And I don't think some people have come out of that isolation phase, or people were already in it.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it didn't cause problems. It just highlighted problems we weren't willing to look at. It's like social media. Does social media, it causes problems? No, it doesn't. It doesn't cause any problems for me. So it doesn't cause problems in itself, does it? It highlights for a lot of people problems, I think. It highlights. If I feel terrible about myself and somebody's going, look at my life, then it highlights the problem I'm experiencing. But if I feel good and, I'm happy for them. So I don't think it all causes problems. I think for a lot of us, it highlights problems.
Yes and no. So I agree. Like if you're online and something pisses you off, like there's a reason why, right? Like one, you can stop looking at it. But two, I think it encourages the behaviors that we're trying to get people out of. So I think, as we've discussed, you can easily lose your head in social media and time can pass you by. It's easily accessible. It's now heavily censored. We're fed certain information. I think it can add to people's troubles if it's mismanaged. But it's not easy to manage. So Facebook and Instagram have the best psychologists making sure you spend more time on it, not off it.
Yes, yeah.
So even if you have good intentions not to use those platforms, it's very difficult not to get sucked into it. Or at least we've talked about fear of missing out and being outside of groups. If you come away from social media now, especially as a business owner, like, do you even exist?
I think you do. I think you do. Well, you've got to be very good at business. I would say my mentors don't have the biggest social media profiling, but they rake in a fair few millions a year. But I know what you're saying. I agree. For most of us, I remember working at the gym and someone said, "You years ago, you're on Facebook?" And I said, "No." They went, "You don't exist if you're not on Facebook." Like literally, I remember that, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I do exist, but like, because you remember I was never on it, was I? I was like,
no. But you're right. You were like the odd one out because you're the guy who's not on social media all the time. It's crazy. When in fact it's the people who are fucking stuck to their phones all day. You're the fucking crazy one. But that's how the world's changed. Like you were the odd one outside because you weren't having your head in the phone all day. It's bizarre. Yeah. It's bizarre. I was talking with my client Mike this morning. He's a recovering alcoholic. You know, hasn't drunk for 15, 20 years. Yeah, on a night out, he's the freak. You know, he's drinking. Yeah. He's the winner. Crazy.
Also, it's our inability to have balance. Like social media is such a great tool. It's amazing. We're doing this, we're doing all these things. But yet, through a whole lot of work on their part, it's so addictive. Like, for example, alcohol. Oh, it's a terrible thing. But we just said 10 minutes ago, oh, them blokes having a beer in the pub. That's great. They've got balance.
Yeah.
You know, it's like anything. Exercise, phenomenal, but imbalance. If you are over exercising, it's going to cause a lot of problems eventually, isn't it? For a lot of people, you know, you can see people who are obsessed with their body and how they look, and it's driving them insane. It's balance, isn't it? And it's fine. It's moderating the balance in our life.
Yeah, there's a lot of old guys that you hear, and they go, you know, I go down the pub every night and I have like 1.5 pints, and like that, like you say, that's it, and that's their way, and it's quite nice. Man,
because they're all pissed. They're all pissed otherwise. That's my dad these days. He's like, I can't drink anymore. Yeah,
it's just nice though, isn't it? This is where like there's an argument for like, you know, I would encourage people to do that rather than stay inside all day. Like, is it good for you? We could argue yes or no, but like it's cool to see guys getting out of the house and socializing with other men, chatting shit, having a beer, I mean, who plays cards now? What a great game, man. Who plays cards now?
Yeah, bridge. They love bridge, older men as well, generally, don't they? And women probably, but you know. And young people probably as well. I'll probably offend someone. I'm young and I play bridge. Whatever. Generally, I remember I go into the pub with my old man and the old boys will be playing bridge.
I think some of the best conversations have been had over a pint. Yeah.
But also, you know, alcohol has got that, you know, and it's an anti-inhibitory, isn't it? Like, you know, people start to say shit, don't they?
You talk about psychedelics, they reckon, you know, there's a level that you get to after 1.5 pints, 2 pints of booze where it's almost as close to a psychedelic. Like you're experiencing life slightly differently. You're intoxicated a little bit. You know, there's a level, sweet spot that, you know, you just start to relax a little bit, you flow a little bit more. Again, there's a lot of creative people that use alcohol still, you know, a little bit of alcohol just to take the edge off, get a bit more creative. And it can encourage good conversation, I believe, especially for men. Like if I've got an issue or my friend wants to speak to me, it's a common thing. We might say, let's go for a beer and have a chat. It almost breaks down the barriers. It reinforces that you're still a man. You've got your beer, and then you start chatting shit.
And all men would be different because there'd be different environments that other men fucking love hanging out in. Do you know what I mean? Like I grew up going. My dad was always in a pub, you know, so I feel quite comfortable going to a pub. You know, other men maybe they feel comfortable going somewhere else. Maybe they are going to the coffee shop, mate.
Yeah, maybe gym's a good place as well. Like, look, you know, when I train my guys in the evening, like the gym, we're all there, we're all sweating, we're all training hard. But you know what? Once or twice a year, we'll all go out and have a good beer together, and there's some good bonding going on at those times. Like, I don't think we should necessarily remove that. Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
The trouble is, everyone wants to remove everything. This is life now. Let's remove everything. It's like we can't trust people to actually manage themselves, so let's remove it all. Can't trust somebody to not get offended, so let's remove that. Somebody might get hurt by that, let's remove that. Oh, alcohol, just remove all that, and all this, just remove all that. Let's just remove everything, so you know people don't have to worry about it. That's what it feels like to me. Like,
this is the worst thing. All this censorship is the worst. So if we started this conversation off about, you know, the importance of challenge and resilience and, you know, hitting those obstacles. If we have this new censored world where we don't offend anybody, like nobody's going to really be tested. Like nobody's going to get into constructive debate. You know, if we're so het up on protecting people's feelings and, you know, we don't want to hurt anyone, like when things do happen or life happens or, you know, so much shit happens in your life, you haven't had any training or exposure to any kind of fucking setbacks or, you know, somebody hasn't, you haven't been offended for 2 years because everyone's on this PC chat.
Well, yeah, and you're not saying we should be going out and insulting people. It's like a lot of people get offended now just because somebody has a different opinion. It's like, oh, they're a hater. not a hater. They just got a different opinion to you. They're not hating anything. Like, that is allowed, like, in life. You're allowed to think different things and still get on, still be okay with each other. It's like we got to remove that a lot of the time. I think it's an inability to deal with peak arousal. We get a peak arousal, like a dread, oh God, because like fight or flight, and we can't handle it, and it tips over. And that's where people get explosive, or we avoid it. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's being able to sit in that peak arousal, that discomfort, that higher energetic sort of state, and be like, okay, I'm experiencing some, my nervous system's ramping up here, but I'm going to sit with it and, not go up, tip over, or not avoid it. I think if we look across our lives, we either avoid peak arousal or we let it consume us and do terrible things.
People look for it now. People look for things that offend them. It's insane to me. Like, this is what happens when you don't have your own personal challenges or purpose and meaningfulness in your life. It's like, I've got to do something. This brain isn't going to entertain itself. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll spend an hour on Twitter and find something offensive.
Yeah, I don't even think that we're consciously doing it. It was wired it. And I think your brain's always looking for something, mate. And it's always learning. It loves learning. So, it's either looking, and what do they say? I think I said this the other night. It's generally looking for two things. It's filtering on your fears or your goals.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a lot of goals or a lot of aims, and that doesn't mean like goals, but it means like, what a good day is or how you want to feel today. That can be a goal. Your intention, it generally just fucking floods you with all your fears, and that's where people find problems.
Yeah, man. Focus on you, right? That's it. So we've been chatting shit for
hour and a half.
Dude, I could chat to you all day. You're a smart motherfucker, man. You're a great guy to chat to. I love picking your brains, and I always learn a lot when we have these conversations, man. It's always good.
Appreciate it. Me too. No, it's been good. I think Ross McKinley said this to me Monday. He said, "You know what?" He's talking about his podcast. I love doing podcasts because I feel after I'm like, that was a good conversation. He's like, and then he said, I go off and I'm like, yeah, that was a good conversation. And I think he said, increasing the quality of your conversations adds to your life. And I think.
Yeah, I've never heard that, but it's so true, right? Yeah, I'm energized now, and meaningful conversation's good. Too much chit chat, too much gossip for me. Yeah, it's okay, but you do want to have important conversations. Like, they're more stimulating, they're exciting, and this is the danger with the whole PC not upset anyone. Like, some of these conversations, we don't want them to end. We don't want them to be removed. We want to encourage debate and difficult conversations. Without that, then what have we got?
How do you ever solve any problems? How will humanity ever solve any problems if you can't come together with people you don't agree with and communicate? That is, I don't get it. Everyone wants to change the world, but they want to do it by attacking somebody else. It's like, if I want to change your behavior, I'm not going to come on here and attack you because you're going to defend your behavior. I'm going to come on and try and understand where you're at and what you're doing. And that's how we collaborate, isn't it? Otherwise, I think a lot of people are trying to create change through competition. Like I spoke about me, I was trying to drive forward in an unhealthy way. I don't have to compete. You don't have to compete against each other. You've got to work with each other and have a way to solve problems as a community, as a fucking world, or whatever.
I think so. And I think that's the concerning thing. I think that's the concerning thing, where we're not going to get the opportunity to do that because of all of these new rules being enforced upon what can be said and what can't.
Yeah. Isn't that mad? Right. It's been a blast. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed every second.
I hope the quality has been okay on the stream, as we said at the start. By the way, you're not fuzzy. You haven't been fuzzy for a long time on my end.
You weren't fuzzy for a fair bit either, son.
Oh, that's good. Let's hope. I was
hoping for some fuzz. I thought I might look better, more streamlined.
Mate, you're a legend. Appreciate you and appreciate your time. So thank you for being on the show, man. You've been a legend. Oh, I said that word, legend. I said that word.
Oh, yeah. But although it's not, I'm not really a legend.
You are a fucking legend. So thank you, brother. Take care, man.
Cheers, mate.